Welcome to this post-landing news conference for Space Shuttle Endeavour's STS-123 mission to the International Space Station. We have 5 gentlemen here joining us this evening here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center to talk about Endeavour's flight. First off, we have NASA Administrator Michael Griffin. Next, we have the NASA Associate Administrator for Space Operations, Bill Gerstenmaier. To his left is the Vice President of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, Kaoru Mamiya. Next, we have the Chair of the STS-123 Mission Management Team, Leroy Kane. And finally, we have Space Shuttle Launch Director, Mike Leinbach.
Good evening.
We'll start with questions, and then, with comments, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Well, let's keep comments short. I'll start out. We're just real pleased to be here. I was telling the commander tonight, Dom Gorey, mission commander, that he had really flown 2 missions in one for us, delivering the first part of the Kibo Laboratory and the Canadian Dexter arm, orchestrating the whole thing superbly. I can't imagine that the mission could have gone any better, and they made it look easy. We're grateful to the crew, and we're grateful to all the people behind the crew who made this happen, our Canadian partners, our Japanese partners, our industrial partners here in this country. It all just came together like clockwork. It is an enormous point of pride for us to get the first part of the Japanese Kibo module up after these many years, certainly going back to when I was working on the space station program 15 years ago and more. We wanted to have this happen, and this is the mission where it finally got accomplished, and of course the next mission is even bigger. So stay tuned.
Thanks, Mike. Again, it's my privilege to be here and pleasure to be here. What a great day this is. We were out waiting for the landing of Endeavour, and we got to see the ATV fly overhead. And then about 4 minutes later, we got to see the space station fly overhead, and then we got to see the shuttle land. And I can't think of a better day or the better ending of a day than to see those 3 wonderful pieces of hardware and to see all the hard work of all the folks that have spent many hours, much of their life putting that hardware together, getting it ready to go fly. So it was just a great experience today, and a real tribute to the team that's put all this work together. We took a look at Endeavour on the runway. The vehicle looks really good. Things look really great. The crew was in great shape. They did a great job, as Mike said. I can't imagine how much work they really got accomplished. It worked out just really well. So again, a great tribute to the team, and it's great to be here. Thank you.
Well, I'm lucky to witness the safe landing of the shuttle, and welcome all the crews, including Mr. Doi, a Japanese crew, to the station. And we are quite honored that Mr. Doi contributed to the construction of the space station, and it's the first step for our Kibo construction. And we hope the next time the main module will be added to the station. And we thanks for NASA, ESA, Canada, and Russia, for all partners and those who contributed to the success of today's mission. Thank you.
Okay. Well, good evening. It's great to be here, as it always is, after a safe and successful landing. I think I will keep my comments brief as well. I spoke at length in the briefing we did on Monday afternoon about how extraordinary this mission was from a docked mission standpoint. It's going to be very difficult to top it. I think we raised the bar, and what was remaining was a safe and successful landing of Endeavour. So. We couldn't be more pleased about how the mission has gone, and it's just great to be here, and the crew looks good, and they're very happy, obviously, as we all are after such a successful mission. So we'll turn Endeavour over to the shuttle processing team and let Mike and the team go to work on her, and we'll set our sights on the next mission. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Leroy. Well, the vehicle really looks great out there on the runway, and I got to talk to several of the people that work on Endeavour for a living, and they're just really proud to have Endeavour home safely. And I got to talk to the crew, and the crew was just having a fantastic time, reflecting on their mission and looking up at the vehicle that just landed. And so they were glad to be home, very proud of the work they did, and we're very proud of the work they did too. So it's good to have Endeavour home. Processing on the next vehicle is going fine. And so on behalf of the Kennedy Space Center, good to have a great mission behind us. We're looking forward to the next one.
Okay, then we'll open it up now to questions. And after I call on you, we get the microphone to you. Please state your name, news affiliation, and who you'd like to answer your question. And we'll start off, for simplistic sake, on this side. Bill.
Hi, it's Bill Harwood with CBS. I'll ask Mike, but it may be a better question for Gareth, I'm not sure. Hearing some rumblings that 124 may slip 5 days or so, a week, because ET just got here. And I'm just wondering, for those of us that's going to take the to watch the Phoenix landing, what the odds are that you guys might deconflict that for us.
You can go watch the Phoenix landing. We're working on the exact date for the STS-124, but you can go watch the Phoenix landing. Well, not yet. Within a few days, but you're deconflicted enough that we know you'll be deconflicted enough that you can manage it with a round trip ticket. Because I'll tell you this, the landing day on Mars is fixed. It ain't moving.
All right, Peter.
Peter King with CBS News. I guess this question is probably for Mike. The pictures of the flame coming out in front of the tail, the APU venting, I think Kyle Herring's line was pronounced or more pronounced because of the night. Can you explain a little bit what that's all about? Because a lot of people are going to see those pictures and wonder what and why.
Well,
It's there on every mission.
It happens every mission. It's the APU exhaust, and obviously you can see it at night a whole lot better than during the day. In fact, it was so pronounced tonight that we could see it on final as Dom was approaching the end of the runway, and before he even got into the xenon lights, if you looked really, really closely, you could see it. Pronounced tonight, not quite sure why. Sometimes atmosphere has a little bit to do with it. But it does pulse as the APU injects the hydrazine over the gas generator bed. It's a pulsation kind of scheme. And so that pulsing is very natural. It happens every time. You got to see it a lot better tonight.
I was going to say, I mean, I've talked to veterans who've covered this program a lot longer than I have, and I think they were even floored by how pronounced it was. I mean, this is nothing that alarmed you or shook you or anything like that.
No, it was no alarm. It was pretty fascinating to see that clearly tonight.
Okay, so going back, Tarek.
Thank you. This is Tarek Malik from Space.com and Space News, and my question is maybe for Dr. Griffin and Mr. Mamiya. This mission had a French astronaut coming home, a Canadian robot, and the first part of a Japanese module going up. And I was just curious what your insights are now that you've got all the partners on the station in terms of international cooperation. Thank you.
Well, we said this was going to happen. We've been working toward this. It has happened. It took years to make it happen. I've said, Tarek, on quite a number of occasions that if you look around, there really isn't anymore a U.S. human spaceflight program or a Russian human spaceflight program. There is a world human spaceflight program centered around the building and then later the utilization of the International Space Station. And we hope when we get that under our belt that this partnership will return to the moon and later go on to Mars. But it's something that we're doing together and have been doing together for quite some time. You're just now seeing the fruits of that work, but the work's been going on. So, Mamiya-san?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Griffin in the sense that we have constructed very strong ties among partners, and it's quite a precious experience, and we want to continue and expand this ties to the future, even though nothing is committed yet, but direction will be as Dr. Griffin told. So we will cooperate in every aspect of the program.
Okay, we'll stick on that side of the room, or anybody else? Okay, we'll come back to this side. Sorry. And we'll go in the front row.
Hi, I'm Maddie Hartke Weber from Junior Scholastic News, and I have a question for Mr. Momio. When Kibo is completed, what do you hope to learn from conducting experiments in open space?
What kind of experiment?
Any types of experiments you'll be conducting in open space?
Yes, yes, of course. Our Kibo module is special in the sense that we can conduct the experiment inside, but also outside of the module. So all sorts of experiment is possible. And the Kibo was constructed by Japanese, but it's open to international society, especially for partners. So partners can utilize our module inside, outside, both. So I hope very effective experiment will be conducted on Kibo.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to the second row, please.
This is Hiroshima Sumitsu from Yomiuri Shimbun. This mission was the first step for Japanese contribution, and it will continue. My question is about it. One for Dr. Griffin. What do you expect about Japanese contribution, especially including HTV? And one more for Mr. Mamiya. When will HTV fly? Thank you.
Well, obviously, the Japanese contribution to the International Space Station program is crucial. Japan has just furnished the first part of what is an incredibly sophisticated scientific laboratory. The reason for the space station is to conduct scientific research in space, and one of the 4 laboratories aboard is the Kibo laboratory, and arguably the most sophisticated laboratory. Second, we do need cargo resupply to the space station, and the HTV, when it flies, will be an important part of the logistics resupply plan to the space station. So Japan is contributing in a very major way.
Yeah. Anyhow, Kibo is a first step for our utilization of the space, and first step for all sorts of human manned activities. And as far as the HTV is concerned, now we started the experiment on clustered engine in Tashiro, and we want to complete by the summer next year.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions on this side of the room? No? Okay, I'll go back to the other side if we could, and go back with a few new people. All right, we'll start off, yeah, Bill, go ahead.
Okay. 2 quick ones. One for Dr. Gerstenmaier. Is there any update at all on downstream flights with ET deliveries? And obviously Hubble is the flight a lot of people are looking at down the road. Is there anything you can say there? And for Dr. Griffin, is there, speaking of Phoenix, is there anything you can add to the Mars rover situation? Dr. Stern's departure, that seemed like a kind of an abrupt thing this week that went on, and I didn't know if there's any light you'd care to shed on that. Thanks.
Well, I don't comment on personnel matters, and so Alan announced that he was leaving for his own reasons. I certainly didn't want him to leave or ask him to leave, and in fact, I asked him to reconsider and to stay. I didn't see that he needed to leave, but he wished to, and so he did, and I've accepted that. And we've announced that Ed Weiler, a former science mission director at AA, will return to headquarters from his position at Center Director of Goddard and run the Science Mission Directorate, and it'll be just fine. Ed's very experienced with that, and we don't have any better people. So that will take care of itself. With regard to the Mars rover controversy, it basically is as reported, Bill. We didn't put any spin on that. A letter went out from headquarters or directing budget cuts in Mars Odyssey operations and Mars rover operations that basically would have crippled ongoing programs. That direction was not cleared with me ahead of time. Had it been, we wouldn't have had that controversy. It was not a good idea, and when it came to light, I reversed it. We go through budget exercises all the time at headquarters, as you know. If missions overrun or get extended in time, they need additional money to get supported, and we have to do less of something else in order to support what needs the money. So that happens all the time. It's very unusual to have a letter of direction go out to make cuts of the type that were described without it being fully vetted, and that happened in this case. And of course, my goal will be to see to it that that doesn't happen again. It was just plain and simply a mistake, and there's nothing else I can really say about it.
Yeah, and in terms of tank processing, the tanks we're getting now are essentially, you could think of them as clean build tanks, whereas before the tanks we had were tanks that had been built before the Katrina hurricane, and we were repairing and making modifications to those tanks. So we're gaining some experience in seeing how long it takes to put those tanks together, how to fabricate them, how to put them together. And then HST is a little unique in the fact that we need to have 2 tanks down here ready to go support that mission, the tank for the flight itself and then the tank for the contingency flight. So we're off evaluating now what that production schedule looks like. We really don't have a good handle on that schedule yet, and once we understand a little bit better where that fits, we'll then announce where we think those flights are going, if they're going to move, and see where they are. But right now, it's really a little early to look at that and see and assess, but we understand that the work is a little bit different than we had before, and we're going to have a different production schedule. So things will slip probably a little bit for those tanks.
Todd?
Todd Halverson of Florida Today for Gerst with kind of a follow. I'm wondering if you can give us a ballpark estimate, an idea of how the remainder of your station assembly missions are going to be spaced out between now and the end of 2010.
If you take a look at the budget manifest or the flight manifest that we have out there, that's pretty much the framework that we've got laid out. We still haven't made an official decision yet on Atlantis, whether we're going to operate it or fly it 2 more times. Again, that's becoming pretty obvious to us that that's something we want to go do, and that's the way we're going to probably go put it together. We still got a little bit more work to do to make sure that that is absolutely the right thing to do, that there's not any hidden gotchas there. So we're going to add probably 2 more flights to Atlantis after the HST flight, and then we'll lay out the manifest. And it looks like we complete before the September 30th, 2010 date with a little bit of margin the way it's laid out now, and it looks fairly decent on paper, even if we kind of have some delays along the way of what we've seen before.
Thanks. And for Mike Griffin, I'm wondering if you could give us a preview of what you're going to tell Congress about the KSC transition with the workforce. I think you have a report due coming up.
We do. The actual reporting date would have been March 24th, except that Congress is in recess, and we thought it was a little bit tacky to hand them a report while they were in recess. So we've made arrangements with them to deliver it to the Congress shortly after they return. And no, I'm not going to go beyond my prior statements on the topic. I think they're entitled to the report first. It's the first of many. The legislation which requires the report requires us to deliver it every 6 months. It's a work in progress as we try to understand what happens to our workforce picture as we transition out of Shuttle and into Orion and Ares. I don't mean to sound either cavalier about it or glib. I think all of you here know how hard I have worked to try to minimize the gap between Shuttle retirement and the onset of new operations with a new system. But we will have, for budgetary and many other reasons, we will have a gap of several years. We are ending the Shuttle program, after all. We are bringing the Shuttle program to a close in 2010. And it will have very difficult effects on the local workforce. So I'll let the report speak for itself when it comes out.
Okay, we'll come around the middle.
My name is Hiro Watanabe from Japanese newspaper Sankei Shimbun. My question would be not directly related to today's landing, but I want to ask Administrator Griffin about Space Shuttle's retirement. It will happen in 2010, and next generation space craft, Orion, will appear maybe 2014 or 2015. And this gap would be crucial for Japanese manned space activity. So I want to ask, is there any possibility to postpone the timing space shuttle's retirement? I mean, do you have an option to use space shuttle, continue using space shuttle after 2010?
No, I'm afraid not. We are retiring the shuttle in 2010. If we don't retire it in 2010, then we will not have the money to bring a new system online even by 2015. In the interim, we expect to purchase crew transportation services from our Russian partners, and we expect to meet our obligations to our international partners, including Japan, by that means.
My name is Hajime Tobe with the Kyodo News, a Japanese newswire. My question is for Dr. Griffin. Now that we get the first segment of Kibo attached, so we are concerned about the ISS operation after 2015. So what are you going to do with the ISS operation after 2015 and as the U.S. government? And when and how or in what process are you going to consider it? Or what do you think we should do with the ISS operation?
This is a question we get a lot. I would remind everyone that the United States makes its budgetary decisions on with a 5-year window. And so our current budget extends out only through 2013 and therefore does not contain any specific plans at this point for the International Space Station past actually at this point past 2015. Now, I've said on a number of occasions that I will not be the administrator at that time. Today's president will not be president at that time. The next president will not be a president at that time that we would want to decide what to do with the space station, and there will be several U.S. Congresses which come and go between now and then. So the decision makers of that time, not this time, will be the ones to decide what to do with the station after the 2016 date. As a purely personal opinion, because I will not be in this job at that time, but as a purely personal opinion, I find it difficult to imagine that U.S. policymakers will want to stop operating a perfectly good space station. So if the space station is working in 2016 and beyond, my own expectation is that it will still be in operation. But again, you're talking about events 7, 8, 9 years in the future, and I don't feel qualified to comment on what will happen at that time.
Okay, we go down the side there to Vic. Back along the corner.
Vic Ratner from ABC, probably for Mr. Gerstenmaier. The crew chose not to speak to microphones tonight, since you all saw them close up. I'd ask whichever one of you wants to venture an opinion, how steady or unsteady you thought they were on their feet, and after 16 days in zero gravity, what were you expecting?
Well, I can tell you they were great, and they were really excited about what they have just done. I asked them what they thought of space station, And it's pretty much the kind of conversations you've heard from them on orbit. They were excited about how big it is, how really a magnificent a research facility it is. Just the size, the scope of what they've done was exciting. I asked them if they were tired, and they said they were not tired. It seemed like they were ready to go again. So I mean, I can't imagine a crew coming back in better spirits than the crew that we saw on the runway today. I mean, were really happy. They were really relaxed. They had really gotten in the groove of operating on space station, and they just did a phenomenal job.
And actually, Vic, just to point something out, it actually was not the crew's decision not to speak. It was actually I'll take responsibility for this. We had a lighting issue on the tarmac and weren't able to light them, so they weren't able to do their. They didn't choose not to. They just weren't able to provide comments. So we're gonna have to wait till tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, actually, to hear from them. But it was not their decision. It was a mistake on public affairs' part. So, you have any other questions right now? All right, speaking of that, our next news conference is for STS-123 is the crew. We'll talk to them tomorrow, Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, here before they head back to NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. If you have any time for information about the STS-123 mission and its crew, you can go online at www.nasa.gov/shuttle, and thank you for joining us.
Be tough, Bill.